Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 48 of ZK Live. Tonight we have Paula Daher from Daher Interior Design. Really excited to talk to Paula. She has a very impressive company and does some really awesome work. So we're really lucky to have her on here. We're going to be talking about all things design, starting a business, managing a team of people, making the client happy, while making yourself happy, and really we're just gonna find out more about Paula's story. And when she gets on here, we'll invite her on. There we are.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me tonight.
Absolutely.
I,
It's going to be
I know
fun.
you're a very. It is. You're a very person, so I appreciate the time. You got a
Absolutely.
nice fire. Like,
You know what? I'm really struggling to hear you, and I don't know why. Um, let's see. So I have volume on as loud as it can go. Okay.
can you hear me now?
Now I can. All right. I have the
Fire.
fire on. I'm sitting in my living room. I'm just going to hang out and chat. Fireside chat.
Perfect. Was it FDR that did the fireside chats? One of those presidents?
I think so. We won't get into a dialogue about presidents tonight.
Let's not. Let's. This is a safe space.
Yes. Absolutely.
Design only.
Yes.
So, for people who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about you and how you got started in the business?
Sure. So my name is Paula Daher, and I started Daher Interior Design 25 years ago. So it's been quite some time. And prior to that, it was sort of an accidental journey, if you will. And one thing that I think has been true throughout my entire career is a little statement that my husband said to me long, long ago, and is so true today and every day. And that is, one thing leads to another. And so many years ago, I was working, and I had my daughter Olivia, and then I had my daughter Alexandra. I have 3 children, by the way, and Alexandra was very, very sick when she was an infant. And I had to stop working because she was so sick, we didn't actually know if she would make it. And so she's a healthy young woman today. So fast forward, everything is perfect. But I had to stay home with her, and I was so accustomed to working, and it drove me crazy not to be busy doing something. And so I started making curtains. So that's really how I began. And actually, that was longer than 25 years ago. And so I began making curtains for my own home because I had sewn growing up. And I thought, okay, this will keep me busy. Girls are napping. I need something to do. I'm going to drive myself crazy. So people would come over and they would say, oh, these are fabulous curtains. Could you make them for me? And that's really how it started.
No.
So Alexandra's 31 today. So that was really a long time ago. And so from there, it actually grew, and I ended up, I worked from my home. I ended up hiring a seamstress that came in, and, fast forward through the years, I had my son, and the kids would come home and say, who are these people in our house? And so from the curtains, people would say, well, what do you think I should do with this? And what do you think I should do with that? And so I started designing. And so I opened my office. I went to Boston Architectural College to get my master's degree. Had 3 kids, ran the business. It was a very, very crazy, crazy time. But fast forward, one thing leads to another. And, today I have a very successful design firm. We have 7 full-time employees, and we have projects all throughout New England. We've been as far away as Bermuda. We have a project right now in Naples, Florida. So we're in lots of different places.
That is, I did not see that coming. That's
See that? See, I like to surprise people.
so you have like best drapes in your house now. Do you continue to make drapes for yourself?
No, I stopped making, so I never enjoyed the actual sewing of them. No, no, I don't even own a sewing machine. So, and you know what? I thought about that during COVID because all this extra, fabric that comes to the office and such. I thought, wow, maybe if I had a sewing machine, I could have made masks. But anyway, no, I haven't. I haven't thread a needle in probably 25 years.
That's amazing. So it means to an end, and now it was really you wanted a nicer looking place, not that any essentially anyone could sew them, but it was the fabric. And I don't know a lot about drapes. What makes a
What makes, I'm sorry, again, you cut out. What makes a great curtain? Is that what you said?
yeah, what makes good?
Oh, well, it's all about the room itself, and it's about the fabric that you're selecting. And do you want to just sort of enhance the window? Do you need to hide, something that's beyond the window? It depends on the hand of the fabric. And then it's all about the lining and the interlining that you use. And we work with an amazing workroom, and they actually hand sew most of the curtains that we make for all of our clients. Beautiful, beautiful product. And they're an important element to every space. So whether it's a high rise, and it's really important that we have sun protection. We do all sorts of motorized shades, motorized curtains, whether it's just an embellishment and there are just stationary panels that are in the room. They're a very important part of every project that we do.
That's awesome. I was going to ask this later, but now that we're here,
Mm-hmm.
I saw on your website how you have clear designations of city, what was it? City, town, water, and high.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the different ways you approach design for those different types of spaces? I'm assuming it's a different approach.
It's a different approach, but it really fundamentally comes down to who the client is and what their needs are. It's really important when I first meet with somebody that we find out how they want to live and what elements I can incorporate into their space, into their home, that's going to make them walk in, feel it once they're at home, and that it meets their needs. And they're whether they're entertaining, whether they're having their friends from afar that come and stay with them. And when we're in a high rise, for instance, the space is not usually quite as large as what it is out in suburbia. And so we've become very adept at creating storage and hiding storage. You might walk into a kitchen in a high rise where you have 12-foot ceilings, and we will run those kitchen cabinets all the way to the top, and you might find winter boots at the top where they never even go in because we'll put them in boxes and nobody knows they're there, and you swap them out in the summer. So we find very ingenious ways to store. We do a lot of millwork design. So in a high rise, I would say, that's what's important. So once we get to know how they live, do they have kids? Do they have dogs? Do they love to host dinner parties? Would they rather just have cocktail parties? So in a high rise, that's what we think about. And then when we're in suburbia, we're thinking about, definitely bringing the outdoors in. We're thinking about materials and durability. But again, millwork is such an important part of everything we do, and something that, of course, you come in after the millwork goes in and embellish and make absolutely wonderful. And your piece of every project is very, very important.
I love to hear. Not everyone thinks that the paint. There is a certain group of people who think it's just painted.
No, no, it's so important. It really is.
Yeah. Especially when there's detailed millwork. The best carpenter in the world could be ruined by a bad painter.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So from what I gather, I think, so can you tell me more about the listen part of your, when a client comes to you, I would imagine there's a lot of listening then, from what you're telling me, and I saw on your website, step one is listen. And I have to say, I like your website, and I
Thank
might
you.
knock off some of those little like 1, 2, 3, 4, because I thought that was so brilliant
It's
to
about a
just
process.
kind of clearly show what it's. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about process, and oftentimes you're with clients. You know, it could be a 2 or 3 year project, and it's a really long project. And other times it's you know, it's a much more brief project. It may be 6 or 8 months, but it's still the same process. And it always starts with listening. And I want to get into finding out about that person or that couple or that family, and really how they want to live and enjoy their space. And that's the crux of the whole project. If you can figure out how they live, and then you design around that, you know, what colors they like. But it's really about the functionality. And so in a space, first thing I do is the floor plan. I don't even think about what the colors are. I don't think about anything. I want the functionality first. So we think about the floor plan. You know, do they have you know, 3 children, and they need to have a great place, a family room, and they all want to be able to have movie night together. So maybe it's a large sectional. Well, how is that going to fit in the room? Or can we do 2 sofas instead? And how is that going to fit if they want, you know, everybody together? We had a project recently that we completed in Marston Mills, at the Cape. And I'm not kidding. Largest sectional ever. They wanted 17 people. It's their vacation home. 17 people at once to sit in this large family room and be able to watch a movie together and watch a game together. So, you know, so I had to hear about that. Like, what? 17 people? Are you kidding me? But no, it's, you know, the cousins and cousins by the dozens all come over. And so we designed to that.
That's tremendous. So you broke the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest sectional?
Yes, and we were joking in the office. We were saying, okay, does it fit 17 bums? Because that's what it needs to do. So, anyway.
So it starts with a plan. I try to think for my own company a lot. I'm trying to train myself more to do a lot more listening in that initial sales process, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're trying to give clients what they want at the end of the day. And I know as a passionate crafts person, oftentimes in the past, I've been like, this is what we can do. We did like, and like tell them all this stuff about the details of painting. And that's not successful. And stopping to really listen then informs the rest of the project, which makes a lot of sense for design too.
Absolutely, absolutely. They don't really want to know how the magic happens, right? They think that we wave a wand and they're happy with that, and it gets finished, right? It goes from A to Z, and it happens, and they don't want to know about all the little details. So
I wish I knew that earlier in my career.
don't we all? Don't we all?
Yes, totally. So after listen, so you listen, you get like a very detailed picture of what is going to drive this, things to look to to inform the design. The next step is then design. How many people in your team are involved in that?
How many people? I'm sorry. How many people are involved in the next stage? And you mean in the actual design?
Yeah.
So at minimum, there are 3 people on every project. And so myself as the principal, and what we term as a project designer, which is an interior designer or an interior architect. And in addition to that, we have an assistant interior designer, and that person assists with, you know, putting paint schedules together, and there's so much minutia when we have these very large projects. Even a smaller project, there's so very many details. So at minimum, there are 3 people involved. And then we also have, for each project, there's sort of the back of the house operations that have to happen as well. But there's a lot of, client visits, and I'm usually always the one that meets with the clients throughout the whole process. And I try to include the project designer as well. And then when you're into a lot of these construction projects, these either it's a renovation or new construction, there's weekly site meetings. There's meeting terrific painters just like you and walking through the project. And so the project designer very much has boots on the ground during that whole process.
How did you go from just you? I'm assuming you first started, it was just you.
Just me for a
What was
long
the progression to 7 people? How did that happen? And what would you attribute to this, your success?
hard work, number one, hard work, and being willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done and do it well. So that's first and foremost. And, it's not a 9-to-5 job, right? You own a business, you have to put your all into it. So, and the first person I hired was a bookkeeper, right? And first that person was part-time, and then that person was full-time. And then I brought in somebody that was sort of an assistant designer. And so, as the projects became more complex, and, then I needed more designers, and it was just sort of a natural progression. I've had as many as 9 at a time. And at this moment where we are at 7, and, we're really strong and really busy. It's a wonderful position to be in.
It strikes me, working for the type of clients that we both work for, what's huge for me is, it's like you said, it's for me, it's not as much about the painting being good. The painting has to be good, but it's about that client experience that really separates us. And I have to think that you've had great client management and the systems to really have, like you said, the back end. Like, the design will be beautiful at the end, but how to manage that project, I would imagine, is a huge piece of where your success came from. Is that right?
Yes, it's a lot of hand holding, and you have to anticipate what they're expecting, and again, it's about listening. And is it easy all the time? No. Do we make mistakes? Absolutely. But you try to dissect it afterwards. Okay, what could we have done better? And next time, how can we approach the same type of situation in a different way to make ourselves better? And sometimes it's hard to do that. It's hard to look in the mirror and say, gosh, if I had only approached this in a different way, maybe we would have had a little bit of a different result, right? It's really hard to make people happy all the time, and you do the best that you can. And so, we really try to work as a team. We try to talk about, there are always issues, as you know, there's always an issue in our industry. The sofa comes in late, or the fabric that was supposed to go on the sofa. We had a case recently. We approved what we call a cutting for approval, a CFA. It went off to the upholsterer. He made the sofa. We arrived at the installation. It's a different fabric. So somehow somebody in the warehouse, messed up. And that's okay. It's going to happen. But, it's how you handle that situation. It's how you then approach the client and say, I'm sorry, it's not here. You're not going to have it on time. We're going to let you keep it in brown, even though it's supposed to be blue. And then, after your party, we're going to pull it out and we're going to have it redone for you. There's so much of that happens. It's just trying to anticipate, and it's really figuring out, what their needs are. Do they have a party that we're trying to, prepare for? Are they, are they trying to move in? But it's about trying to anticipate. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is that we have many, many repeat clients. So I'm working right now on my 4th project with somebody. And that's a lot. I mean, I think that says a lot about our team.
Totally. I love what you said about self-reflection. Say, like, what could I have done different? I try to work on that a lot.
Yeah.
It's easy to have it and say, well, they were a bad client, or they like, or the upholsterer messed up. Well, is there something I could have done to prevent the upholsterer from messing up? Or
Right.
have more time in between that and delivery? I I try really hard these days to focus on what can I do better, because I think it's easy to go, oh, that, blame the world.
Right. It's so easy to do that and not take responsibility, but you just have to own up to it. And, and sometimes that means, you know what? We made a mistake. We're going to make it right. And you have to take something back and have it reworked. And it's on your dime. But what's most important is at the end that the client is happy, and you're lucky if they tell one other person. But if they're not happy, they could tell 10 people. So, I think it's customer service 101. You have to do what it takes to make them happy. Although there are some people you cannot make them happy. We've all had those clients. It's impossible to make them happy no matter what. But that's when you say, this is as good as it's going to get for that person. And there's nothing else that I could do.
Yeah, that's what I tell my guys. We've done everything in our power to give the best possible job.
Yes.
At that point, we can't do any more.
Correct. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. When I would imagine you interview a client as much as they're interviewing you. Are there red flags that can come up that would make you not want to work with the client?
It's so difficult. It really depends, right? So businesses are cyclical, and you're always looking. You're always looking to fill your pipeline, and you're always trying to talk to people. And sometimes when you speak with people on the phone, you think that you're aligned with them, and you think it's the type of project that you'd be well suited for, but you don't know. You think it's perfect, and then you start and you're like, yeah. And you try to say you have to be a good decision maker. If you're not a good decision maker, the project could go on endlessly. You try to ask certain questions, and they might answer them the right way. And then you get into it and no, this is just not good. But then you have to really have difficult conversations sometimes with clients and say, okay, we need to have a hard reset here. What is it, that you think we could do differently, or that we could speak about things differently that would make this process go more smoothly? And sometimes it just takes that. It just takes really sitting down with people. And other times you have these amazing dream clients that, just have, you kind of make all the decisions for them, and they're just happy. And as long as you're showing these wonderful things along the way, they're just really thrilled. So everyone's so different, and it's hard. And, I find it really difficult, those clients that you really thought were going to be a really good fit for each other, and then you really struggle, and then you try to figure out, like, how can I approach this differently? Those are the ones I think that are most difficult.
I love what you say about difficult conversations. I've talked about that on this podcast in the past, where I made the mistake of not having a difficult conversation, wanting to make everyone happy in the moment. By doing that and not having the hard conversation now, it makes later way worse. And, I'm a people pleaser. I always want everyone to like me, but I'm learning to just, go right at it, have the difficult conversation earlier on. And it's not always easy, but when you've been burned a couple times, it'll help make those difficult conversations happen quicker.
Absolutely. And then if you're honest and you say, you know what, I just don't think this is working. And, and you kind of lay out the roadmap as to, where you diverted somehow, and how sometimes you might slip up in your process because you think that they, something that really works for us, you might try something a little bit differently, and it just doesn't work. And you just, I find that I'm just honest, and sometimes I'll just say, you know what? Why don't we get through, XYZ, and then maybe it's best that we move on. And oftentimes just by having that conversation, you can come to an agreement and find a way forward. And it doesn't happen often. It's just I would say 99% of our clients are wonderful. They're
Yeah.
really, really wonderful. Yeah.
But but as business owners, like you were saying, I'm always trying to reflect on, no one calls me when things are going well. Like,
Correct.
I don't phone calls. This is all awesome. Like I
No.
got fired. Like that's my job. So I think I spend more time trying to get rid of the difficult pieces. That's my job, is to solve problems. And so I know what you mean. It does, most of the time that it's not bad, but
Right.
I had a project where I really wish I walked away. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't walk away. I said we're going to walk away.
Okay.
Later, I called someone and got some advice I probably shouldn't have listened to. And I called my guys back and said, never mind, we're going to complete this.
Okay.
And so many red flags. I should have just walked away. We were at a completion point and I didn't. And it's going to give me the strength next time, because I've never walked away from a project. And this project is going to give me the strength in the next time something like this happens, which I hope it never happens again.
Right.
To actually listen to my gut. Sometimes it's so hard to listen to your gut.
It is because you're a people pleaser, and as am I. And I don't think we'd be in this service business, right? If we weren't, because we're there to serve our clients, and we just want to be people pleasers. And sometimes it's not the best situation, but by and large, it is.
Yeah,
it really is.
Tough because we both of our jobs are subjective on some level. Like,
yes,
does the client like it or not is very subjective.
Absolutely.
It's part in a factory, and it's like, well, this is the spec. You have to like it because this is exactly what the spec is. I might say I like that, and a bunch of people might say they like it. But if the client doesn't, we're not,
Right. Or if they see things, I mean, everybody sees color differently than another person, right? So you might think, or I might think, my gosh, this is, I saw one of your recent posts that you had with, it was like a bright cadet blue room, I believe, that you had done, and high gloss lacquer. And, but what if the person walked in and said, but that's not the blue I wanted. But even though they saw the samples of it, because they see things differently. These things happen. They happen. So you're right. It's subjective. It's totally subjective.
But like you said, back to this, like, what can I do?
Right.
I can make a full scale sample, which we do on all of our projects now.
Yeah.
Here's a full scale sample of that blue. And that they had a cabinet door painted with the exact paint, not some paint that's kind of like it. This is the exact paint.
Perfect.
Walk into the room, look at it, sleep on it, make sure before we start you're good. Because in the past you go, well, the color swatch looks good.
Yep.
And swatches don't end up looking like the same thing on the wall half the time.
Exactly. Sign off on that, please.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, I had to learn that the hard way one time so that I could implement it into my business.
Yeah. And that's part of your process now, right?
Exactly.
So we learn along the way, and we don't want it to ever happen again.
It's not a problem if it happens once. It's a problem if it happens again.
Exactly. And I tell my team that all the time, because everybody makes mistakes. There's an issue with a measurement or something, and I have to let people in my team, they have to be comfortable if they fail, that, they're not going to lose their job, because everybody is going to make a mistake. But it's how you handle that mistake. You better never make it again, right? But it's a learning experience. And, unfortunately, in this type of business, it really is kind of the hours that you're putting in. And it is from mistakes that you'll never make that same mistake again.
Yeah. And when a lot of young people who are just starting will contact me and ask me stuff, and you know, I can't just give you a formula to do.
Right.
Like, you have to make a lot of mistakes, and you know, it is a great mentality, because I think mentality is what we control, right? Our mindset we control, and the way we look at the same issue could be seen completely different ways.
No, you're absolutely right. And for us, we have to figure out, okay, how does the client want to see that?
That's the lens that it's always through. We are here to make our clients happy.
Right.
And so tell me a little bit about that. I would imagine obviously you've done an amazing job of making clients happy. How were you able to, from the time you got into this because you like designing things, to marry that with making clients happy? What does that look like?
Oh gosh. um, so I guess it comes down to process and through, trying different things with clients. So again, it's about listening, and then it's telling them flat out, this is how it's going to work. And then by listening, we're creating a design that not only meets but exceeds their expectations. And we're giving them, along the way, we're letting them make choices. So we'll give them, 3 options of something. And so we know that they all work. We might prefer one over another, but they're ultimately saying, you know what, I really like that over this one. Or the husband might like one and the wife likes the other, and they decide to go in the third. And I think that that's part of it. It lets them sort of feel that, that they really have a hand in it. I would say it's few and far between where clients will just say, okay, here's the check, call me when it's done. They don't want anything to do with it. That's very rare that happens. So, people like to have a little bit of, be actively involved in the process. We don't want them to be too involved in the process in terms of, um, you just want to sort of, I'm just going to take a room, for example. I'm sitting in my living room. I'm going to select a living room. You want to show them the pieces that are going in there, but you don't want to be exploring the universe. You want to say, okay, I've listened to you. You are, modern, but modern, comfortable. I know that these 3 sofas all work. I know that, this pair of chairs works with this sofa, or that goes with that one. We've done our homework. We're not going to go and explore, 100 different things for the same object in the same room. We know. And if we don't nail it in that first time we meet, I wasn't listening. I just wasn't listening. And so the next time it better be right. And so really that's what it comes down to. It's listening. And then they're happy and they really feel that they had a part of it.
That's amazing. And they don't have decision fatigue, right? All those studies that will show if you have too many choices, you're never happy with any of the choice you pick.
That's exactly right. And, when we're doing a whole, an enormous home, and there's millwork everywhere, and, you're designing the balustrade for the staircases, and there are a lot of details. And so we really try to be very focused about, in a meeting, and never have a meeting that's too long. We pretty much have the process down. Okay, we're going to lose them after an hour and a half. We're going to lose them. They're going to be wandering. Their minds are going to be wandering. That's all that really we get. So we're very focused, and that's how we make them happy.
That's awesome. So we have listen, design. Tell me about the management. So you work with, most of the time, is there a general contractor involved with what you're doing?
Yes. So it depends upon the project itself. Sometimes clients will come to us and they'll hire us first. We'll do the design, and then we will, we do a lot of interior architecture where, I think a different type of firm than some other interior design firms, and that we do, full scale drawings for everything. So we're able to put a complete drawing set together, and we can then make the introduction to them to different contractors that they will then interview, use our plans, and they can get their bids and make their decisions. So that's one way. Another way is the client will come to us and say, we've already hired this contractor, or we have the contractor, we have the architect, we'd like to bring you in. So it happens, kind of organically, but there's always a contractor involved.
Would you say it's 50-50 one way or the other, or it happens more one way?
That's a very good question.
And
I would say I would say it's probably 60%, 60 to 65% that we would make the introductions, and probably 35% that we would be brought in. It really depends. It so depends. And if it's a destination project, they already have their team set up.
awesome. Which do you prefer?
It doesn't matter, but of course, familiarity makes life much easier, right? So to work with somebody that you've had just a really good, positive working relationship, who all their subcontractors are, it just makes life much, much easier. You anticipate, or you know that they're going to reach out if they have a problem, and you're going to problem solve together. So sometimes when it's a brand new relationship and it's the first time you're working with this contractor or the first time with this architect, it's a different situation, and you're not quite sure, you're kind of trying to be the coordinator in terms of, well, I don't want to step on those feet, and I don't want to step on those, and where's the line, and so of course familiarity is much easier.
Yeah, less unknowns.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So the management, is that, you would say that's obviously that takes the longest. That part of the 4 pieces is the longest time period while the whole project is actually happening.
Yeah. So once the project really is finished being designed, so we've created the floor plans, we've designed the millwork, we've designed custom furniture, we've created proposals and taken deposits from clients on just about everything. That's when the whole management piece starts happening, because we're managing the operations in the field, right? We're meeting with the contractor and the subcontractor, making sure that that is happening. But then the back room is making sure that, the correct fabric is getting to the correct factory, and they found a freight company that's going to, bring the sofa from Los Angeles to Boston. There's so many moving parts, and that the drapery is being made, and that the trim arrived for the pillows, and the accessories. I'm out sourcing art and accessories. There's so many little pieces together. So sometimes that's the point where clients are saying, okay, what's happening? I don't really see anything. But that's when communication is so important. And I would say that's another thing that we're really good at with our clients. We keep them abreast of what's happening. It depends, sometimes it's every week that you're sending a note, hey, this is what's happened this week. Sometimes it's every couple of weeks. And we just give them big updates. It looks like, okay, on December 1st, we're going to be able to install, 95% of the house. All the furnishings will go in. So it's just about communication.
That's awesome. And that's been my experience. And again, that's one of those things you have to learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
But communication is so huge, because people want to know what's going on. And
exactly.
There's
and they're spending a lot of money, and they want to know what's happening.
Yeah. And there's that curve I've seen like tons of pictures of like, of the happiness of a client and the excitement, and the project, and they're so excited. It's like through the roof. Oh right. My, picking everything out. And then like they see the framing go up and like, oh my gosh. And then like this whole long period where it's like super low. It's get done. And if you haven't done good if your communication is poor, that period of time can, I would imagine, be pretty painful.
I would think so, for sure. And things can, kind of go off the rails.
Yeah. Because then that very end, then they're right back. You put all those furnishings in that place, and all of a sudden they have a house again.
Exactly. And they're thrilled.
Do you? I've heard of designers like getting all of the pieces and like storing them and putting them in storage. Is
Hmm.
that you?
Yes, that's what we do all the time. Yep, we have a receiver, and then because there are so many elements that go into a home. I mean, we're not really going into someone's house and doing one room. That's typically not the project that we're taking at this point. However, I will say, for our clients that we've already worked with in the past, absolutely, we're going to go back and just do one room and do a refresh. We do that, absolutely. But we're doing, these projects, and everything gets shipped to a receiver so that we can have this big, it almost like a TV program where it's the big reveal. And you hope that 100% of everything can happen. It doesn't, but a good 95% of everything gets installed.
That's
For
all.
sure. Yeah.
So I won't ask you to get into your favorite contractors, but I would imagine you have some.
Well, how did we meet? Yes, I definitely have many. I have many. So I don't know who's listening, but I have many, many, many. Um, and we've met actually through a contractor recently on a project together.
Who will
And
podcast soon?
I'm sorry.
One
I
of them
didn't.
will be on the podcast soon.
Oh, yay! That's exciting. That's very exciting. But yes, we work with many. So and they're all wonderful, and I could list many that I love working with, but I'd be afraid that I would miss one
Yeah,
and then they would be upset with me.
I don't want to put you in
I'm
a
a
position.
pleaser. I'm a pleaser.
Get it? I get it. Um, so let's talk about paint for a little bit then.
All right.
Um, we obviously do a lot of gloss work. Do
Mm-hmm.
you spec a lot of gloss work? What are your thoughts on gloss?
We I love gloss. I absolutely love it. I love it on doors. Love to do it on doors. Ceilings, another fabulous place. And I know you've just done the most magnificent ceiling for us. Just amazing. Um, we do it a lot in furnishings. We do a lot of custom furniture, our own designs, and we actually use a lot of gloss in our furniture design. Um, Kitchen cabinetry, I'm trying to think. Not a tremendous amount, but I would say more and more we're doing lots and lots of doors. And I know you are an expert at that. And your exterior doors they're spectacular.
I love them personally. I love them. I love to do them. They're just make. I mean, we call them art. It's
It
art.
is.
It's not just a painted door at that point.
No, and you really do a tremendous job, and it's not an easy thing to accomplish. So kudos to you and your team. You're very talented.
Thank you. And we worked with Jessica from Alternative Finishes on that project, and you got to meet her. She's unbelievable.
She's unbelievable. Yeah, she was so helpful, and she's just great.
She's
Yeah.
really the passion that she has for the client being happy, like serving the client first and foremost, is always how she sees everything. And I've learned so much from her. She's amazing.
That's wonderful. And to meet people within our industry that that can get you excited, that you can learn from. It's an important part of growing and just being the best that we can be.
Yeah, I think that's huge to have peers that you can bounce ideas off of. And, I'm in little like private Facebook groups where we nerd out about different things. You do the same thing in your world, I would imagine?
Um, so I have a group of designers that I travel with every year to a trade show in Paris. And so we've now gone so many times. Actually, last January was the last time we were there, and not happening this year. So we've sort of become this little pod that we'll call each other, and which is great. And then there's another organization I belong to, Design Leaders Leadership Network, and they try to have these different groups, but nothing can surpass being local and just really close to people around us, and it doesn't necessarily have to be within our exact profession, and and I do have friends that are interior designers, but it's also, we all, USAC, and then contractors, we all sort of share, architects, we share the same, ups and downs with the businesses that we run. And so, it's being able to pick up the phone and, calling somebody and say, hey, what do you think? Have you experienced this before? So yeah, it's important.
Yeah, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel, and
Right.
feel isolated. I've in the past, before social media, for me, I felt very isolated as a contractor. I didn't have a large network of people, and for me, social media has done amazing things to connect me to other like-minded people,
Mm,
and I'm so grateful for it.
yeah, absolutely. It's changed everything. Way back, I remember before my office was in Boston, we moved to Boston 13 years ago, and my business, prior to that, we lived in Andover, which is north of the city. And, it, so I'm going back really toward the beginning of my career, and you're trying to find other businesses that you can make referrals to. And, but without social media, it was so different. It was really different. It's amazing how we can share and meet each other. It's great. It's a great tool.
It really is. Like you said, like before we were looking through this little lens that we were looking through, right? And if we saw somebody and maybe they knew somebody, but now we have, I'm able to meet carpenters and metal guys and interior
Hmm.
designers and builders, and you can see what they stand for and who they are through their social media page. And then you can connect in a way, through like a DM real fast. Like you develop relationships so organically and so quickly. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And they can meet for coffee so easily too. It's great. It really is great.
So how we talked a little bit. You did a showcase. What did you call it? A showcase unit at One Dalton.
So I created a model at One Dalton. So I was approached by the developer. So One Dalton, as I've actually been sitting here holding my phone. I have to move this. I can't hold it anymore. I One Dalton, if people don't know, any of the people that are listening to the podcast, it is now the tallest residential building in Boston. And it was designed, one of the architects was Henry Cobb, who recently passed away. He was in his 90s, I think 97. He knows, not only does the building have very private residences, but they also have a hotel. So I was approached by the developer, and they wanted to create a model that would appeal to a broad spectrum of potential buyers. And so I was essentially interviewed for the job, and I, put together a presentation for them, had them into my office, and, talked about the clients that will live in this building are well traveled, and what they would expect, the small luxuries, the little luxuries that they would expect to have and find in their homes. And so we created a design, and fortunately they loved it, and we were able to put the model together, and it was, it was, where was it? Did we recently publish? It was published last January in Rise magazine, which is part of New England Home, and it was published again recently in Modern Luxury, Boston. So sort of a different spin on it, and so it's been great, and we have many projects in the building, and I feel very fortunate that that we've had this opportunity to sort of be part of a building that has really changed the Boston skyline forever. And it's a very special place for those people that are, fortunate enough to live there, and buy there. It's a very cool place. And and a pool and really interesting amenities, but yet it's a very private building, and the views are just outstanding, outstanding.
When you look down on the Prudential, that's insane.
It is. It's really crazy, isn't it? It's funny. I was over the weekend. I was reading an article. I think it was in the Globe about, they're taking the Prudential and they're creating this new observation deck, and they're talking about it, and I thought, yeah, whatever. I've been seeing that now from one Dalton. It's a very special experience. And when they were building the building, I was able to go up. The elevators were on the outside, and it was dead winter, and you're going up, all the way to the top of the building. It was a very harrowing experience. It was crazy. And they'd have wind alerts. Okay, now you have to get out of the elevator. It was really crazy.
That's unbelievable. Well, obviously it speaks a lot about your talent and your organization, because I would imagine there was a lot of people interested in doing a model at One Dalton. So first of all, congratulations. But what do you think were the key pieces that helped you to secure that slot, that model?
The design, right? And it was sort of thinking about who that potential buyer was. And, having worked with many clients that, that have multiple homes, you understand sort of their psyche and what they expect to have. That they've traveled the world, and travel for me is an extraordinarily important part of who I am, in terms of exploring other cultures and being infused by cultures, and letting that help inform my design. I just find it so important. And, so I try to have that sort of come through in the design itself, so that whoever walked in that door, they would feel that it really could be theirs, and that that there'd be this pull for them. So not only would they see this amazing view and this beautiful building, they would walk in and say, I can imagine myself here, because these are the things that are surrounding me that I can imagine living here. And that's the approach that I took.
That's amazing. So listen is the big, and it's the takeaway for all businesses in our world.
Mm-hmm.
Just is listen more. And I'm going to listen even better having had this conversation.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm excited about that, Zach. and I'm going to listen even more tomorrow now.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. This has been amazing. But we have 3 questions that we ask everybody at the end.
Uh-oh. I'm a person.
They're fun.
Scared, so okay.
The last one is scary, but the first 2 are easy.
Okay.
So the first question I have for you is your favorite piece of design paraphernalia, whether it be like a tool, a software program, a piece of equipment.
Crazy. The iPhone. 100%, hands down, the iPhone is the best thing ever, right? Totally has changed and transformed the design industry. Being able to take photos of everything, being able to take videos in clients' homes, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. That's easy.
That's an awesome answer. We have not got that one yet. But arguably, there's not a more powerful tool in any of our worlds. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what I would do. My whole company, my whole business is run through my phone.
Right? It's a computer. It's a little computer in our pocket, for sure.
Yeah. Tremendous. All right. So now I need a DIY tip for people who are designing a space in their own home.
Huh. All right. You've got to give me a room. Come on now.
And what do you think the most commonly let's do a bedroom.
A bedroom. Okay. So what would a do-it-yourself tip? Let's see. Huh. So somebody, let's see, there's so many things I could say. It needs to be very restful, and it needs to be quiet and calming. And if you, I would keep it as sparse as it could be in terms of furnishings. So not a pile of, books in the corner and laundry in the other corner. Just really sparse and really calming. And it's all about the sheets. There's nothing like jumping into a frette dressed bed with frette sheets. It's just amazing. And, you know, just think of the space as being calm. So colors not too bold, just soft. Everything kind of soft. And don't put a TV in there. I always encourage people not to put a TV in the bedroom if they don't have to.
I love that. Can you say that word, that type of sheet again?
Oh, frette, Frette.
I'm going to look up what that means, and I'm going to have to get some new sheets.
Brand of sheets. It's a brand.
Okay. Awesome. Well, the last question is my favorite question, because you're obviously an absolute expert. You've demonstrated that, how amazing and talented and skilled. This has been an awesome interview. But now we need you to tell us the worst, most embarrassing thing that's ever happened in your company. I painted the wrong house one time. We've had many unbelievable stories of mistakes and bloopers. So do you have any good bloopers for us?
I do. I really have a hysterical one, but there's a word in there that I can't use in public. But let's just say I have a habit of texting so that you don't have to text, right? And so I texted something to a client one day, and the wrong word came out. And it was supposed to say, I can't wait to see that spectacular, they had purchased a piece of art, and it just didn't come out that way. And it was just a horrible thing that I said. So always check what you're texting before you press send.
That is a great tip. Thank you very much for sharing that. And really, thank you for your time. This has been awesome.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye, Paula.
Bye.
That was amazing. Awesome talk. So many parallels between the painting world and design world. I think that a high level designer like Paula obviously has a lot of things. She's doing a lot of things right. And I'm definitely going to knock off her website process. If you go to dayherinteriordesign.com, I think it is. It's on her Instagram. You can link to it. She has an amazing website where you go to process, and it says like listen, and then you click to the right, and then it says the next step and the next step. I want to do a better job to communicating to my clients what the process is going to be like. And I definitely am going to listen even more to the next client that I have an interaction with, because I think that is, at the end of the day, we are trying to make people happy. And the best way to do that is to listen and to know where they're coming from. So thanks everybody for watching. We're going to post this podcast, and all the other podcasts are on iTunes, ZK Live. They're also on YouTube and Spotify. So if you like the podcast, if you don't like it and you want to give us a review of what we could do better, send me a DM on that one. But if you like it, give me a 5-star review. Next Sunday, I'm going to start reading all the reviews. I know I've said that before, but I'm going to start reading the reviews. I'd love it if you review. But again, everybody have a great night, and we'll see you later.